She became the unlikely heroine of a near hijacking that shocked the world. Her bravery and determination forever altered the course of events, proving that even in extreme situations, there is always hope. It was a typical workday for flight attendant Laura. Accustomed to crowded flights and hurried passengers, everything was going smoothly on the flight to Turkey, and everyone had settled into their seats. The young woman began the safety orientation, showing travelers the necessary information. It was to be a flight of over 17 hours to Istanbul, and people were somewhat restless, but Laura smiled and was so friendly that she made the atmosphere lighter and more peaceful. She was a decisive and courageous woman who cared deeply about the people around her. Known for being very friendly and attentive, she was always ready to help when someone needed it. Only 25 years old, but since she was young, she dreamed of traveling the world and experiencing new cultures and places. She believed that life was to be lived and experienced to the fullest, and that the world was full of exciting possibilities and adventures. After graduating from tourism college, Laura decided to follow her passion for travel and became a flight attendant. The young woman had been working at this company for about 2 years and loved her job. She traveled to different countries and cities every week, meeting new people and experiencing new things. She loved helping passengers and ensuring they had a pleasant experience throughout the journey. Throughout her career, Laura dealt with various difficult situations, including medical emergencies, route deviations, and delays due to bad weather, but she always remained calm and ensured that the customers were safe and comfortable. The girl was an exemplary professional, and both her crew colleagues and the travelers admired her dedication and ability to perform her job with excellence. Then, on that day, everything seemed to be going well on the flight to Turkey she was on until she noticed something strange as she walked down the aisle, checking if everyone was buckled up and well settled. There was an older couple, about 40-45 years old, sitting a few rows back from the emergency exit door, and they seemed to be acting suspiciously. They were always looking at a little girl with golden curls sitting near them as if they were bothered by something. She noticed that the girl seemed scared and felt her protective instinct alert her that something was wrong there. When she approached, she asked the girl, "Good afternoon, my dear. Are you okay? Are you comfortable? What's your name?" The little girl replied that her name was Sophia, but before she could say anything else, the woman from that couple was rude and said, "She's fine and very comfortable, isn't she, Sophia?" she said, looking meanly at the girl who just lowered her head and agreed. Laura found this very strange. Then she asked if they were okay, if they needed anything, and was answered with, "Yes, we're fine, you can go." She was restless and surprised by how rude that woman was, but before she left, she turned back to the little girl and asked, "Well, dear, if you need anything, just call me, okay?" "Ma'am, can you take me to the bathroom?" the girl said, already standing up. But then the woman pulled her arm down hard and said angrily, "Where do you think you're going, Sophia? Sit down and watch the movie here," and smiled falsely when she realized that the flight attendant was shocked by the aggressiveness with which she ordered the girl to sit down. Then the man who was with him spoke, trying to calm the situation. "We apologize, miss, we are Sophia's grandparents. We are going to visit some relatives in Turkey, but my granddaughter hates airplanes, she's always restless." Laura smiled and said that everything was fine, but something in her heart told her to keep an eye on those two. She knew there was something wrong but could never have imagined that the little girl was being taken by kidnappers. It turns out that the couple was part of an international child trafficking gang that operated in several countries around the world. Maria was an adult and dangerous woman, while Carlos was a strong and intimidating man. They had meticulously planned the kidnapping of the girl, who was the daughter of a successful businessman in Brazil in the financial market. Sophia was a 7-year-old girl with long blonde hair and big blue eyes. Her father, George, was known for his ability to invest money in billion-dollar companies and make a fortune. Her mother, Kate, was an elegant and sophisticated woman, one of the greatest society women in the city, who lived traveling and campaigning about her exclusive and luxurious clothing line. As a girl from an influential family, the traffickers saw in her an opportunity to make a lot of money. They would either ask for $1 million ransom or sell her to someone much richer who would pay millions for a beautiful little girl like that. In any case, they would come out winning. Then when Sophia was waiting for her parents' driver to pick her up from ballet class, they took the girl and then took her to a hidden location. "Help, help," the poor girl shouted. But they were already far away. She was terrified by the situation and did not understand why those strangers had taken her, and was even more frightened when she realized she was being taken on an airplane. Sophia tried to communicate with the people around her, but the traffickers kept her silent, threatening her that something bad would happen to her and her family if she said anything. "Stay quiet, girl, don't even think about opening your beak, or we'll go after your mother and your father. Do you want something bad to happen to them?" And the little girl cried quietly. Maria and Carlos worked in conjunction with other members of the gang who had infiltrated airports and companies to facilitate the transport of children. They had a well-organized and dangerous scheme that involved bribes, threats, forgery of documents, and even deaths. But they didn't count on the presence of Laura, the courageous flight attendant, who could disrupt their plans. During the meal service, Sophia waited until the flight attendant passed by her row to make a discreet hand signal indicating that she needed help. But Maria's attentive gaze did not go unnoticed. The trafficker squeezed the girl's arm hard and scolded her. "What are you doing, girl? Don't dare try anything funny," she threatened the criminal. The little girl's heart raced, and she tried to disguise the tension on her face. Meanwhile, Laura noticed the movement in the row and decided to approach. "May I offer you something, ma'am?" she asked, smiling kindly. "No, thank you," the woman replied, giving her a suspicious look. "We're fine," she added with a fake smile. The little girl felt a tightness in her chest, and her eyes welled up. She knew she needed to be brave but was afraid. She tried to pretend she was watching the movie on the screen in front of her, but she was terrified. Laura was suspicious but did not want to give away and draw the trafficker's attention. She knew there was something wrong there and that if it was a delicate situation, she needed to act cautiously. During the flight, while serving the other passengers, she always glanced at the girl and tried to find a way to talk to her. However, the couple remained attentive. When one slept, the other stayed awake with eyes glued to the poor Sophia. Laura noticed the trafficker's every move. She tried to approach the girl a few times during the meal service but did not want to draw their attention. She looked at the girl with a sympathetic look and realized that Sophia needed help. She did not know how or why, but she was sure that the little girl was in trouble. Then at one point, when Carlos was driving, he ended up dozing off and fell asleep for a few minutes. That was when Laura ran to Sophia and said very softly in her ear, trying to be discreet and not wake the man, "Are you okay, my dear?" Sophia looked at the flight attendant, looked at the couple who were sleeping, and looked back at the young woman with a hopeful look. She wanted to ask for help but did not know how. She was very afraid of Carlos waking up and the worst happening. Laura, realizing the anguish in the girl's expression, decided to act. She knew she had to be quick and efficient without raising suspicions and without waking the traffickers. She approached the little girl, took a pen from her pocket, and whispered in her ear, "Listen carefully. When I say, chamomile tea, it's time for you to go to the bathroom. Leave a message written on the toilet paper about what's happening, and I'll find a way to help you, okay?" Sophia nodded her head while hiding the pen in her little outfit. The poor girl felt a small ray of hope and smiled for the first time. She knew the flight attendant was trying to help her but had no idea if she could write something without being noticed by the traffickers. Then at one point that night, Laura began the first meal service. Meanwhile, the little girl anxiously awaited the opportunity to ask for help. When the young woman said to the first row of passengers, "Who accepts chamomile tea?" Sophia immediately remembered the sign she had agreed with the flight attendant and stood up, running to the bathroom. But when she reached the door, she had a little difficulty opening it, and that's when the girl heard Maria's voice behind her. "What are you doing here, girl? Didn't I tell you to stay quiet?" asked the trafficker with a sinister and very irritated look. Sophia felt her heart race as she tried to think of an excuse. I just needed to go to the bathroom," the girl replied, trying to appear calm. The woman opened the door and ordered her inside, but to the poor girl's misfortune, she also entered and said, "It's fine, but don't do anything funny," she said, giving the girl a menacing look. Sophia was speechless. She had no idea how she would leave a note for the lady with the criminal inside, staring at her. Then she asked with a trembling voice, full of fear, "Can you turn around? I can't pee with someone looking at me." The woman, even though she didn't like it, turned around and waited. This was the moment, but where was the paper? The little girl thought, searching everywhere. "Is it over already?" the trafficker said firmly and rudely. Poor Sophia was devastated that she had not been able to ask for help. She just told the woman that she was done and left the bathroom, head down. But it was a long flight, there were still many hours until landing. So she knew she couldn't miss the chance to ask for help, especially since the flight attendant clearly noticed that something was wrong. That's why she decided to try again later when the traffickers were asleep. Laura, as she approached their row, offered the tea as if nothing had happened and looked at the girl, hoping for some sign that the plan had worked. However, it was the exact opposite. The girl was tense, afraid that Maria was watching her. Then the flight attendant checked the bathroom for any notes but found nothing. It can't be, Laura thought. She was worried about Sophia and upset when she saw that there was no toilet paper there. She felt somewhat guilty that the plan had not worked, as she had not checked if the bathroom maintenance had been done. The poor little girl was frustrated. She desperately wanted to ask for help but had not had the chance. She wondered if she would ever be able to get out of that situation or if she would be forced to live with the traffickers forever. Poor thing, she didn't know that their plan was even worse. The girl felt helpless and desperate. However, when there were only 3 hours left to reach Istanbul, the flight attendants began to distribute the morning meals. As they walked down the aisles, the girl looked at the flight attendant, sometimes trying to move her arm in a way that the kidnappers wouldn't notice, hoping to catch the crew's attention. But the criminal became suspicious of the girl's suspicious behavior and immediately reprimanded her with a menacing look. "What are you doing, girl? Stay quiet and eat your food," the trafficker said sharply. Laura, approaching their row, noticed the tense atmosphere there and saw that Sophia was visibly more frightened. But before she could do anything, Carlos intervened and asked for more wine, diverting the flight attendant's attention. Then a few minutes later, while the crew was collecting the plates and cutlery, Sophia tried to leave a note for Laura on the napkin. She waited for a moment when the traffickers were distracted, finishing eating and talking, to make a quick movement and grab the pen that Laura had given her in her pantyhose. The girl hid the pen in the palm of her hand, which was under the table, and wrote discreetly, very quickly, on the napkin. Her little heart was relieved because now she could continue with the plan to ask for help. She folded the napkin in 4 parts but ended up dropping it on the floor. Sophia was desperate because she couldn't bend down to pick it up since the criminals would see and take her plea for help. She kept hoping that someone would see it and not throw it away. Then when the flight attendant arrived to collect the couple's and the little girl's plates, Laura saw the napkin fallen on the floor and picked it up discreetly, thinking it might be a message from the girl since it was folded so neatly. "Could you please pass me the plates and the cutlery?" she said as she opened the napkin without drawing attention, hiding it on the other side of the cart. But when she saw what was written there, she was shocked. "Help, they are kidnapping me," was what the paper said. Laura felt a chill down her spine as she read those words, and her heart raced. She immediately looked at Sophia, who was staring at her with wide eyes, silently pleading for help. The young woman needed to act quickly but could not let the kidnappers realize that she knew about the situation. The couple got annoyed because the young woman had not yet picked up the plates, and Maria began to speak aggressively and rudely. "Aren't you going to pick it up? What are you waiting for, miss?" Laura was flustered. "I'm sorry, ma'am," she finished organizing the plates and the cutlery on the cart. She kept the napkin in her pocket and continued acting normally, waiting for the right opportunity to help Sophia. Before heading to the kitchen, she glanced sideways at the girl and noticed that the expression on her face had changed as if she were now hopeful. So it was time. The flight attendant needed to act quickly but cautiously to ensure the safety of the little girl and all the passengers on board. Laura immediately alerted the other crew members and the pilot, who was shocked that this was happening on his plane, and he immediately contacted the authorities. He then pretended there was a problem with the runway and announced to the crew, "Ladies and gentlemen, I ask for your understanding, but we have a small problem with the runway, and we will have to stay a few more minutes in the air." The truth was that they were just waiting for the police to arrive before the plane even landed. Meanwhile, the young woman tried to stay calm and appear as discreet as possible so that the kidnappers wouldn't notice anything. When the plane finally landed, Laura activated the airport security team, and they acted quickly while the passengers were leaving the plane. The police entered imperceptibly to the couple, waiting for the right moment to act. Then they gave a signal. The flight attendant approached the little girl and said, trying to reassure her, "Calm down, Sophia, we're going to get you out of here. Come with me," she whispered to the flight attendant, holding the girl's hand firmly. Immediately, Maria screamed, "Where do you think you're taking my granddaughter?" However, at that moment, she and Carlos noticed the strange movement behind Laura and began to get restless. Then the police shouted, "Let's go," and that's when the couple realized they had been set up. Carlos pulled out a knife and took Laura hostage. "Back off, or I'll cut her," the trafficker shouted several times while Maria and he tried to get through the police without being caught. They tried to leave the plane as quickly as possible but were surprised by the police, who were also outside, surrounding the plane. They were arrested immediately and released the flight attendant. Now Sophia was safe and was taken to a safe place. They contacted the little girl's parents, and the next day she met them. Everyone hugged with relief and happiness. Laura was recognized for her courage and efficiency, and Sophia's parents rewarded her with a generous sum of money, in addition to the eternal love of that beautiful little girl. Laura felt happy for having fulfilled her mission to protect the passengers and especially for having saved the life of an innocent girl. She realized that her job had a greater purpose and that she was making a difference in the world. With the money from the reward, she donated a part to charities that help children victims of abuse and violence, and with the other part, she took a self-defense course and improved her skills to be more prepared if something like this happened again. The story of Laura and Sophia became famous, and the flight attendant was admired by many as a true heroine. She continued working as a flight attendant but now with even more dedication and passion for her job. Laura realized that life often put challenges in her way that made her question her purpose, but she knew she was making a difference in the world, and that was what mattered. What do you think of this story? Do you think they acted right? Leave your comment below to know your opinion. It is very important to us. If you liked this exciting story, help us by leaving a like and subscribing to our channel. Thank you very much for watching us and see you in the next story.